fact, I love children's artwork because they don't know any better.
Yeah.
You know, their skies can be green and their people are out of proportion and all this kind of stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's when they learn the rules that you're not supposed to do it like that. That's when creativity starts to collapse.
Hey, Islanders, and welcome to episode 97 of the Camano Voice. Today I speak with the featured Artist of the Month of the Loft for the month of June. Please welcome Jason Otto. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview folks around Camano Island and beyond. If you want to stay up to date on events, businesses, and even hear a little history of this area, subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends. Thanks for listening. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. On this episode, I got to speak with Jason Otto, who is the featured Artist of the Month in the Loft at Camano Commons for the month of June in 2021. If you guys are listening to this in the future past that, then he's probably no longer the featured Artist of the Month, but he was in June. So anyways, I got to speak with him and go over all of his kind of his experience as an artist. He's someone who has done art on and off throughout his life. It's never really gone away, but it hasn't always been his focus. But after retiring from Boeing, which we'll talk about, he's decided to pour more time and energy into his art. So he's really getting more into it. He's also picked up some other hobbies, which have taken some of that time away. But I got to see, I've got to check out his art, both from his website and from his art that he's been bringing in to the Loft. And it's really neat. I really enjoy it. You'll kind of hear his explanation of what he tries to convey in his art, and I think he does so very, very well. Also, my background is a mechanical engineer, and I really enjoyed his work that he did of the Boeing plant and the motion. It's the planes being built and the fuselage and the wings and different aspects of the plane, but not necessarily the completed. So he talks a little bit about this, having that energy and that motion in the art. And I really feel like you get that when you're looking at some of these pieces. So anyways, without further ado, here is my conversation with Jason Otto. Hey, Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the featured Artist of the Month in the Loft. Welcome to the podcast, Jason Otto.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about Jason.
Oh, well, let's see. I am celebrating my 35th anniversary here this weekend coming up.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Yeah. So my wife has lived in the Puget Sound her whole life, and I've been here most of it.
Okay.
We moved to Camano Island about 3 years ago.
All right.
After being in Mukilteo for about 20 years and Everett in that area.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a beautiful spot. I'm glad we moved up here.
Nice.
Yeah, other than that, so I worked at Boeing for many years and recently retired from that.
Okay.
Partly in order to try to spend more time and resources on my art career.
Yeah.
However, I've also got addicted to playing golf, which has bitten into my time. But
yeah. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, I'm sure other stuff will come out as we talk.
Yeah. Nice. So where did you grow up then?
I was born in Palo Alto.
Okay.
In fact, I tell people I came out of Stanford because that's where I was born, at Stanford Hospital.
Okay.
So,
nice.
But grew up in the kind of the Mojave Desert down in Southern California. Moved to Oregon for a bit, lived in Alaska for a few years. But then after that, it was mostly the Puget Sound. So
okay. So what were your age groups that you were moving to these different places?
We moved out of the desert up to Glendale, Oregon, and Grants Pass, Oregon, when I was around 10 years old.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my mom got remarried, and he found this job in Alaska.
Okay, what part of Alaska?
Well, first it was in Haines, Alaska.
Really? We've got some friends that are up there.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And
nice.
after that, we moved to Kodiak.
Oh, really? Okay. Very cool. We actually were just up there. We went out to, we went on a trip in April, me and two of my guy friends, and we stayed at a cabin out there. And the cabin's about an hour out of town, but it was a lot of fun. It was beautiful up there.
Oh, on Kodiak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So were you guys living in the city then of Kodiak?
Yeah, I mean, there's only one city.
Right. Right.
On the edge of the mountains. But yeah, that's where we lived. And, I was younger. I didn't appreciate the scenery and all that. And the culture was new to me and stuff. So, I'm sure I didn't get all out of it that I should have. But it was kind of nice to get back to civilization again.
Yes, I'm sure. Well, as a kid, that was one of the things. We would drive into town, every couple of days or whatever. And it was one of those thoughts of like, man, everyone that's in Kodiak knows everyone that's in Kodiak. Like, if you live there, like, everybody. Yeah. It's got to be kind of a weird place to live. I mean, it's neat, and you get a little of that on Camano, but, like, Kodiak, like, there's not a drive-on part. It's like, everyone there is there.
Yeah, once you get there, you're kind of stuck, right?
Yeah. But, it's a beautiful area. And
it is. Yeah.
Very cool. So then you guys moved, that's when you guys moved back and you moved into the Pacific Northwest up in Washington?
Right. Yeah, I spent a little bit of time in the Bay Area trying to find a job, and then some other weird circumstances came up where I came back up to Washington, met my wife, found some work up here, and then the rest is history.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. So where did you go to school?
So I went to elementary school and stuff down in California, obviously, and then Alaska was, or junior high was the Grants Pass area, Southern Oregon, and then high school was in Alaska.
Okay.
So I graduated from high school from Kodiak.
Okay.
Yeah. Then went to Central Washington University.
Okay.
In Ellensburg.
Yeah.
Then after that, and I got married. Or actually, right after that, I guess, I started taking some courses at Fuller Theological Seminary.
Oh, yeah.
Through Seattle.
Okay.
And 8 years later or so, that turned into a master's degree.
Okay. So, what was the actual degree in then?
Master's of Arts and Theology.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Did you were you planning on going into the ministry then, or what were you kind of going there for?
I've always been active in the church and trying to do, I've taught some classes, in that context and stuff. But no, I never really had the calling or desire to go into a full-time ministry.
Yeah. What was the art aspect of that degree or master's?
There wasn't any.
Oh, okay.
You mean the art? I see. No, it's just a master's in theology.
Oh, got it. Okay, sorry about that.
Just an MA. Yeah.
Got it. Right, that makes sense. Yeah, that's like the Bachelor of Science and the Bachelor of Arts. I always get those. Right. Yes. Okay. And then, so when you were getting into, was art something that, like, as you've grown up, that was something you was big and important in your life, or was that something that came on much later?
So my father was a full-time artist.
Okay.
Yeah, he painted in oils, and he trained as a pharmacist, like his father was, and once he discovered how much he loved art, that became sort of a part-time gig for him and stuff, just to kind of make a living. But no, all growing up, he was 100% artwork.
Wow.
Very prolific in Southern Oregon, Northern California area.
Okay, what's his name?
Curtis Otto.
Curtis Otto.
Yeah, he passed away a few years ago.
Okay.
But pretty well renowned there. When we walked down the street of Eureka, California with him, people would yell, "Hey, Otto!" It's like he was a rock star, But, so that's, and he never really pushed me to go into art. Mm-hmm. He didn't, like, sit down and say, "Here, let me show you how to do this," or anything. But obviously I, picked up some elements of what he saw.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it all came around.
Okay. And was this something that you were doing, like, when you were younger?
Not really.
Okay.
No, I think the first painting I remember doing was in high school. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of did some different painting. I did some stuff for Longacres Racetrack when they were in business. So just doing some different stuff along the way. in college and things, but kind of like now, I'm just trying to spend more time doing it because it's not just you need time to paint, but you also need time to market, get involved in the community, in the art world, and put your paintings up in different places, like I'm doing here in the loft. So that all takes a lot of kind of resources and things.
Right. Well, and just like anything, it takes a lot of time to you have to learn it and from classes or teachers or whoever, and then you've got to practice it, and then you got to take a lot of time to learn and practice, and then kind of integrate what you've learned. Mm-hmm. So just the creation of the art itself takes a lot of time, and then you said, there's the marketing and all the other aspects. Yeah,
that's true. And I think what I got from my dad was an eye for design, and then he really loved paint, and I love paint also. I mean, it's for me the images that I paint, and I like doing images. I like doing things that are recognizable, but I try to make them bigger than life. And so I like paint. I like paintings that show the brushwork and have some energy to them and things like that.
Yeah.
So, and he did some of that. I mean, our stuff is different but similar. So,
okay.
Sometimes I do a painting and I can see his influence in it. But,
nice.
Kind of different subject matter. And I use acrylics.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. And he used oils.
Yeah. Nice. Have you played around much with oils?
Some, yeah. What I really like about acrylics is they dry fast.
Yeah.
And when I paint pretty fast, pretty aggressively.
Okay.
My paintings can take a long time to develop. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll set a painting aside and come back to it, months or a year later to keep working on it until it's right. But when I do actually apply the paint to the canvas, I like working quick.
Okay.
And I think that's part of where the energy of it comes from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you decide when you're ready to be done with a painting?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes they come together, sometimes they don't. It's really, I don't know. I look at it and I just want I want two things to happen. One is I want it to be cohesive, design-wise, not just a splattering of stuff. But at the same time, I want it to have a lot of energy and kind of dynamic flow to it, stuff that, I couldn't even have pretended to have known in advance, So when I don't know when I know I'm done. It's like sometimes I'll sit a painting down and I'll look at it and I'll make one change and I'll set it back down, make one small change. I don't know. I just know when it's flowing perfectly together.
Yeah, that's very
hard to
cool.
Explain.
Yeah, no, and I do think that there's definitely, especially within the arts, there's a lot of intuition, and it's very hard to scientifically say, well, when this happens, it's done.
Right.
So
right.
Nice.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I don't stop when it looks like the real picture. I want it to look bigger than life.
Yeah.
I want it to be different than that. So
yeah,
it's something else.
Nice. So, because you keep talking about this aspect of you want your pictures to be bigger than life and have that aspect, how much of that is drawn from your experience at Boeing?
Well, it's interesting because I started doing the Boeing assembly plant paintings when I was working there. I've done quite a few of those and had some pretty good success with them. The thing that I loved about the factory, because I had to walk. I was in IT, so I did computing stuff there.
Yep.
But I was in the middle of the factory almost my whole career there. And so I'd have to walk through the factory every day to get to my desk. And the cool part of the factory is just this constant buzz and energy going on. So I found the process of building the airplane a lot more interesting than the finished product.
Okay.
So I've done very few paintings of actual built airplanes.
Yeah.
Except maybe by commission or something like that. But I love the manufacturing plant and the process going on.
Yeah.
And so what I tried to do there is just trying to depict some of that energy that's happening when you walk through there, that pulses through the factory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so I spent a little bit of time in the Boeing factory of South Carolina for about 8 months. I worked with a company called Janicki, and we were contracted down there. So we would fly out there, and everyone was on like 6 to 8 month rotations. But that was one of those aspects of like, and also Boeing's one of those companies that has a day, swing, and night shift. So it's literally never not moving.
Right.
And so no matter what time of day or what time you're working, there's always motion, there's always activity, there's always noise of something going on. And I feel like that was something that was really interesting of being in a company like that size. And then that larger than life aspect I thought was really interesting that you were talking about in your photos because, or in your paintings, because that was the thing I felt when you were at Boeing. If you ever walk the floor down there, the planes are out of scale to what your mind is even saying they are.
They're huge.
And, and so when you're walking on the floor, you're like, that's big. Like you understand that it's big, but it's when a semi truck pulls up next to it and it looks like a toy car, that you realize how massive these things are.
Yeah, I think it was a 787 Stretch or one of those that I walked by and I went, it's amazing these get off the ground and don't break in half. They're so big, so long. Yeah, it's something else.
Yeah. So was the images and stuff that you had from Boeing, were those something that you had in your mind? Did you have pictures that you were drawing from? What did you have there?
Yeah, well, they kind of frowned upon setting up an easel on the factory floor, or of even taking photographs. They really clamped down on that. So a lot of it is from stock footage, pictures I had taken when I was able to, things like that. It's interesting because, so my dad, he would paint live.
Okay.
And only live. What I do, I paint almost totally from photographs.
Okay.
I'll visit the site. I'll take the photographs in most cases. So I get a feel for it. Mm-hmm. But to me, once I get the image down, then I can kind of go to work.
Okay.
So, things like, I'll even do paintings from black and white sometimes.
Okay.
And just explore it from there and improvise and do whatever I want.
Okay.
So at Boeing, I knew the factory, I knew the buzz, the feeling, and all I needed was to get some images that I could work off of.
Yeah.
So
nice. Have you done any like plein air events or things like that where you are just painting live?
A few, but not very many.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. So do you really enjoy like having that like kind of that stillness of being like in your studio and being able to like really think about how you're going to put it together?
I think so. Even if I did, live painting like that, I think I'd end up getting the imagery down.
Okay. And
the composition down, and then I would go back to the studio and kind of experiment and see what it looked like. So either way, it's going to be quite a process.
Yeah.
As I work on it and make changes and think about it and stuff like that.
Yeah. Very cool. So when did you actually, so we talked a little bit about like that you started in art a little bit later. When did you actually start painting and all of that?
So I painted, like I said, I think my first painting was in high school.
Okay.
And I can't, it's hard to define exactly how it progressed from there or evolved. I've just always painted some.
Okay.
Maybe just not as much as I have the last 10 years or 15 years or so.
Yeah. So when you started doing it at Boeing, not at Boeing, but like of the Boeing plant and stuff like that, was that like you had not really been painting for a while and then you were like, I'm going to try this out, or how did that kind of come about?
No, I was always painting. Like I said, when the stuff for like the racetrack, my sister was a racehorse jockey.
Okay.
So I found the whole atmosphere of the racetrack interesting.
Yeah.
So I did some paintings there, and that was in my early college days.
Okay.
So, and I was trying to get those paintings hung and displayed and sold and had some success with that. So it's been ongoing.
Got it.
There was never a time when I, didn't paint.
Yeah.
It's just, you just have to have the time to do it.
Right.
So,
yeah.
It's just been here the last, well, I mean, not even, I don't want to say I wasn't doing it and then all of a sudden I did. It's just, I've been more conscious of painting more and trying to get a little more established, a little more known in marketing and display.
Yeah. Nice. Has there been anyone or any courses or anything that you've taken that have really helped you progress in your painting?
Yeah, it's funny. I think I've only taken 2 art classes in my life.
Okay.
So most of it is just instinct, I guess. And that can be good or bad because, the more laws or more rules you know about painting or artwork, it can kind of be detrimental. In fact, I love children's artwork because they don't know any better.
Yeah.
Their skies can be green and their people are out of proportion and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's when they learn the rules that you're not supposed to do it like that. That's when creativity starts to collapse. So not knowing, all the science behind artwork and all of that kind of stuff has been helpful, I think.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, I obviously have some eye for it. Otherwise, it would just be kind of a jumbled mess. So, but yeah, I didn't really take a whole lot of courses. Obviously, I was influenced by my dad.
Yeah.
I loved the pop artists when I was younger. I remember like Andy Warhol and
Okay.
those guys. I thought their stuff was really creative.
Nice.
In fact, what I liked about it was all about the idea and kind of the design and less so about how it was produced,
Okay.
which is kind of funny because I just ended up saying that I love the paint also. So I'm kind of a mix between them.
Yeah. Nice. So you guys lived in Mukilteo in that area. How did you guys find out about Camano, and when did you guys kind of decide to move up?
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird story. My wife had a friend who was in Utah,
Okay.
and this friend asked her to, kind of look for houses up here because they were going to move back up.
Okay.
And so she found this house on Camano for them, and while she was at it, she discovered our house. Anyway, it just seemed like a good time. The market in Mukilteo was out of control. So,
Yeah.
So things were less expensive up here, and a much nicer place to hang out. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
Nice.
how that worked. And yeah, haven't regretted it. It's great.
Very cool. So then when did you retire from Boeing then?
I think it's been 4 years,
Okay.
4 or 5 years.
Okay. Nice.
Yep. And then been on Camano Island for 3 years.
Okay. Nice. And then, did you really decide to I know you've been painting throughout this, but I guess, was it when you were still at Boeing that you really started painting really consistently, or has it been more since retirement?
Yeah, I think probably during Boeing I was painting, I wouldn't say consistently, not as much as I do now.
Okay.
So I'd say after retirement, I decided I wanted to, really get into it and see
Yeah.
how far I could get with it.
Nice. Very cool. And how has that process been for you?
It's been great. Like I said, I've been distracted by some other hobbies that I've picked up. I'm really I'm interested in a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
I don't think I could do art 24 hours a day.
Right.
I don't know how healthy that is anyway. So, for example, golfing a lot, I've done some paintings of the golf course.
Okay.
So, you got to kind of get out there and experience different things so you can try to put them on canvas.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's been a great experience. And I'm a member of the Stanwood Camano Arts Guild.
Okay.
And that's been terrific. Great group of artists. And they offer some nice outlets for displaying pieces.
Yeah.
So it's been fun to meet the artist community here.
Nice. Very cool. And then are you part of the studio art tour that's coming up in June?
I'm not.
Okay.
No. I'll have some paintings, hopefully, at the Gilded Gallery in Stanwood,
Okay.
which is kind of part of that tour.
Right. Right.
I was at Beach One Gallery down at the Camano Country Club
Yep.
just last month, and I was there a couple of years ago when the studio tour was going on. So
Okay.
I try to take part in it some way, but I'm not part of the tour itself.
Yes.
Just me.
Yeah.
Not yet, anyway.
Okay. Nice. Very cool. And then, so talk about the pieces that you're bringing to the loft then.
Okay, so I have one Boeing piece
Okay.
that I brought in. Engines are cool, so
Mhm.
it has to do with, it is an engine hang with a worker in there. I like getting people into my paintings. People are very interesting.
Yeah.
So I do that. And I have a couple of ferry boat ones.
Okay.
I've done quite a few of those. They're kind of neat.
Yeah.
I have kind of a spiritual one of a young gal.
Okay.
You'll have to see it. I mean, it's hard to explain.
Yeah. Is there's kind of a feeling or story behind that one?
Well, it's an idea. I've done a couple of them. So, yeah, I'll go ahead and tell you what my thinking was on it.
Okay. Yeah.
So the thinking was, is it normal people in kind of desperate situations, people we would normally not have any contact with, maybe people in the margins. What I've done is I've taken some of those images and I've put halos on them.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I did one it's not here, but it's a guy who obviously has some issues, and I put a halo on him and I put some angelic beings kind of above him.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this idea that there's something precious in all people,
Yeah.
even if we don't recognize it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
So that's what I did with it. It was a young girl who obviously is living in poverty.
Yeah.
It comes from a picture my sister took down in it's either Mexico or Costa Rica or
Okay.
somewhere in South America like that.
Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah, so it's a concept because I've thought of ways of maybe trying to introduce some spirituality
Yeah.
into paintings, but I don't want to be too. I don't know. I always like a little sense of mystery
Mm-hmm.
in artwork.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I think art inherently is, to some degree, spiritual.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
because it is a pouring out of the spirit of the artist that's creating it. I think that's been seen in so many of the paintings, the artists that we've had up in the loft.
Mm-hmm.
Each of them have their own feeling of what they're going for with their artwork, and I think that all comes from them. Their spirit of like, this is what I'm really trying to convey here.
Yeah.
And so I think art is kind of a physical representation of what their spirit is kind of trying to show.
Yeah, and it's a creative outlet. It's a so I've heard different authors and philosophers talk about how artwork is. It's like a mimicking of creation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. I
very
think there's
cool.
a lot of truth to that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's really neat too. Like that aspect of what you're saying is just, every human life is just important, and that we forget that because we're busy in our lives, and the people that are important to us are our family and our friends that we see, or maybe like the CEO or president or whatever, like these high figures. But it's not like every human life from the bottom to the top is important, and I think I think any reminder of that is a good reminder.
Yeah, I think so. It's not that we would say otherwise normally. I think we just don't deal with it. I mean, we just don't see it,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it is a reminder that there's other people out there. And even though they're kind of hands off, and you may not want to, you'd be maybe afraid to get involved with them, there's a value there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great reminder for all of us. So very cool. And then do you have other art shows that you're going to be involved with as we go into summer and stuff like that you're aware of?
I'm going to be, I had right now I'm at the Linwood Convention Center. That's a beautiful place for artwork, and they've done a great job of having some shows there. I've done that a couple of times. Nice big paintings because they have huge walls.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's really a nice spot. I have a painting going up in the Shack Art Gallery in Everett. There's
Okay.
a show coming up. I always take part in the Gilded Gallery shows. I was on the schedule to have a one-man show at the Rose Hill Community Center in Mukilteo.
Okay.
So that would be a big show. But because of COVID, I'm not really sure what's happening with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I haven't heard back on whether that's still on or not.
Okay. Were there a lot of shows or things that you had scheduled out that got canceled due to COVID?
Not really.
Okay.
The Gilded Gallery's done a remarkable job of keeping these shows, something going, some
Yeah.
shows going, even during, the last 6 months or 8 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I have paintings. I have them in banks, and I have some in the Mukilteo Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
I've had
Nice.
shows at the Future of Flight Museum in Everett,
Okay.
next to Boeing.
Oh, very cool.
So yeah, I've had a lot of opportunities to show stuff.
Nice. Very cool. All right. Well, we like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
All right. So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most in the last 3 months?
Yeah. So I bought a iPhone charging pad.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's life-changing because, first of all, I didn't know my iPhone, being the model it was, would even work on that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I found that out, I went, wow, that's cool, because the charging pod,
Yeah.
always goes out and it gets
Yes.
gunk in there. And
Yep.
Anyway, it was awful. It was a chore to charge it. And anyway, the charging pad is miraculous.
Yeah.
Cheap, really cheap too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's what I find too. I love the fact that there's a wireless charging, because I ran into the same issue. Like, it'd be like, put the cord in, and technically it's reversible, but like it ends up being like only one way works.
Yeah, you got to keep jiggling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew about charging pads, but I didn't know it would work on my phone.
Yeah.
So it was great. to find
Very
that
cool.
out. So there you go.
Nice. All right. Pretend you have a friend coming from out of town. What would their first day look like here?
So we have a nice little back gazebo thing.
Oh, nice.
With some swinging chairs. that
Okay.
My wife got their, I think they're called Hawaiian chairs or something, but they hang from the beam and they kind of swing. So we'd probably give him time to relax from his trip and hang out there for a little bit. After that, we'd have to take him to some of the beaches, maybe Cama Beach. And
Yeah.
of course, the Camano coffee roasters
Yeah.
is a must do.
Very cool. All right. Who's an interesting or fascinating person in this community that I should interview next?
Yeah, I've thought about that. So I don't know if you've ever interviewed Val Paul Taylor.
No.
He is the president of the Stanwood Camano Arts Guild,
Okay.
and a really interesting guy, very knowledgeable, has a great depth of understanding of art and history. I think he taught art. He was a graphic artist, and he does some pretty out there kind of paintings, quite different than mine,
Okay.
but definitely a very fascinating individual to talk to.
Nice. Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. And lastly, if you could have a message on a billboard right on Camano Island, what would that say?
This is a hard one.
It is a hard one.
I searched my Bob Dylan lyrics memory bank because I'm a big Bob Dylan fan. I don't know. I mean, there's a quote from Martin Luther King that says something like, or Martin Luther King Jr., I should say.
Yeah.
That says, well, actually, it would be Martin Luther King Jr., but it says something like, choose love because hate is too heavy of a burden to bear. Something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I think that's a really good one, especially in today's world of just all the stuff we're seeing going on and everything.
Yeah.
So,
It is a burden. It's better to lighten up. I
yes.
think.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been great fun.
Yeah. All right. And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one.
All right, thanks.
Well, a big thank you to Jason Otto for joining me on the podcast, and thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us be found by other Islanders like yourself. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/EP97. That's CamanoCommons.com/EP97. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.